Now, this could look like the start of just another daytime gardening makeover show, except for just a few things. The huge wall in the background, covered with razor wire, and that forbidding Victorian building over there, which is packed full of convicted criminals. If you look just a little further to the right, that's our broadcasting truck, because this is Cardiff Prison, and all week we're taking a live look at life on the inside.
Good morning. Now, this is no ordinary cell. It's reserved for the most dangerous or disruptive prisoners. They have no furniture and they'll be strip searched and they'll stay here till they calm down. The prison calls it the segregation unit.
And a man of soul in the house of sinners. We meet the chaplain who says prison puts his faith to the test.
I think one of the most hardest parts of the role as a chaplain is your involvement in suicides. During my time at Cardiff Prison, I'm well into double figures of the number of men that have committed suicide.
And 130 miles away at Stafford Women's Prison, Rachel hasn't seen her children since she was sent down 15 months ago, but she wasn't exactly a model parent.
It was a case of taking my daughter out shoplifting so I could get the money to get my heroin. What life? I discussed myself.
And when the going gets tough, these are the prison officers that get going.
Okay, Nick, I'm just going to let you in now. In you go.
So the jury's given its verdict, the judge has passed sentence, and this is it, home for 14 days, 14 months, perhaps even 14 years. 4 walls, 13 foot by 7. You can actually walk the length of it in 2 long strides. That's the whole cell. I thought I'd give you a tour, show you what it's like, what's going on. And you have 2 bunks, so this is obviously going to be shared by 2 prisoners in most of the cells here. You have to ask yourself how they decide who gets the top bunk and who gets the bottom. I understand the bottom one is the one that most prisoners like. The rules are they have to have ventilation and light. So if I bring you around, this is how tight we are in here. This is your ventilation of light. This is going to be your view of the outside world for however long your sentence is. If you'd like to back off a little bit, there's a toilet just down here, which you have to share with your cellmate. There is some, you can have some privacy by bringing the curtain around, but if you look at this curtain, you can actually see through it because the prisoners, officers need to look through the window and tell what's going on. And to be honest, you have to think about smells and things like that. No wardrobes because you have no clothes, other than ones you're either wearing your clothes or your clothes are in the wash. So you have a small cupboard for putting things in. Maybe your wash things are on here. If you back off a little bit, Dave, it's all fairly tight in here. We have 1 table and chair for the 2 prisoners to share. Actually, I'll tell you what, let's squeeze past me again, will you? Because I want to show you the other end. If you come back, there you go. Up this end, we have a kettle. They make their own tea. They have their own breakfast in the cell. There's none of this that you've seen on programmes where they all go into a mess hall and they eat. No, they have their breakfast here before they go out. They're issued 1 tea bag every morning before when they go to bed so they can make their tea in the morning. Interestingly, they have television. Unless you're in a segregation unit, this is actually obviously a privilege, but most of the cells have this. And also here, look, if you look at the door, nothing on the inside, no handle, no way of getting out, nothing. Once they bang the door on you there, that's it. There's a panic button just here, which you can buzz if you're being attacked or you want to attract an officer. I'm going to press it now because I really don't want to be... Guys, could you let me out at this stage, please? I really... Thanks. Thank you very much. Dave there who's letting me out. No, interesting, the television. It seems like a really big privilege. And, you know, no punishment if you can sit and watch TV all day, is it?
It does wonders for the staff because of the calming effect on the prisoners.
Does it really?
Yes. I mean, they have to pay for the privilege 50p a week.
Is that right?
They can have films on them on the weekend, which we pipe around all the cells and all the wings.
Right.
However, as a punishment on occasion, it is taken out of the cell.
All right, now you've got a couple of prisoners that I'm going to go and have a chat with in here. Would you like to tighten up for them and tell them that we're on the way in?
Yep, no problem.
We're going to see Paul and Justin. You share a cell here.
A visitor for you?
Lovely.
Is it all right to go in?
Yep, no
Thank you very much, Dave. Come this way.
Morning.
Good morning. Wanted to go through a few questions. We just looked at a cell there, and I wanted to check with you. How do you... who would get this the right way round?
I'm Paul, this is Justin.
This is Justin. You've been in before. Yeah, this isn't your first time in, but this is your first time.
It is mine, yes.
OK, how do you live and get used to having two people in a place this size?
Most important thing is to find someone you actually get on with quite well. That prevents the arguments about what you watch on telly and stuff like that. Apart from that, you do get used to it. I mean, we don't really bump into each other much, do we?
Well, you have a routine, don't you?
Yeah, I suppose. I'm up first thing in the morning, I make the coffee first thing, and vice versa. He cleans the cell one day, I clean the cell the other day.
He's the bitch.
Is that's a prison term, or you're just...
Yeah,
I think we'll move on. OK, so... And how do you deal with things like... well, I mean, just the proximity of it. What's the most difficult time? Is it the first night that you come into
I
prison?
think the very first time is difficult because you're not entirely sure of what's going on and why it's going on. And you don't have any... you're totally at their hands as far as what you do and when you do it, which you're not used to from the outside. You know, if you want to make a phone call, it's up to the officers when you can make it. Things like that.
Telly, we've just seen that you've got telly in here, and, you know, it looks like an easy life. It seems like, you know, you can sit and watch telly as luxury.
I wouldn't say it's easy. It's a lot more comfortable having the telly in your cell and your own comforts, but it's still not the best that's going on the outside.
You going to come back in?
Me, I'm not.
This is your first time, isn't it?
It's my first time, yeah, and I've decided that I shall be doing something else with my time from now on.
What's the worst thing about being in?
I say I haven't it's hard enough being in here, but having a different cellmate time and time again, it can bring up the atmosphere. You've got to have someone you can get along with.
That's the thing, you see, because you don't get to choose your cellmate always, do you? And have you had dodgy cellmates?
Oh, I think we've both had dodgy cellmates, haven't we?
Yeah, if vice versa, really. You either end up with someone you like or someone you dislike.
But also what they've done, I mean, you've been in with murderers and all kinds of things, yeah?
Yeah.
And is that nerve-wracking when you're actually sharing with someone like that?
Yeah, it can be, because you don't really know what they're thinking about and what's going through their mind at all.
And do you talk about what you're in for, or is it accepted that you don't talk about what you're in for?
Normally, the first topic of conversation when you move in with someone is finding out their name and what they're in prison for and how long.
You keep coming back. You just said this isn't an easy life. It isn't. Why do you keep coming back?
I think it's the luck of the draw at the end of the day. I break the law and I expect to come back to prison. I know there's no life for no one inside here. These walls are, I'm going to say, they're pretty scary and from time to times.
All right, I'll leave you to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'll let you get on with the rest of your day.
Cheers.
How extraordinary. Do you know, genuinely, I don't think I'd want to be in there. That's just so cramped. No, I wouldn't want to do that.
In every prison, 24 hours a day, there are 3 people who, by law, must always be there. A governor, a doctor and a chaplain.
La 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 la. It has often been said to me that I'm somehow not stereotypical of being a clergy person. Good morning. I am what I am. And I always say to people, sometimes people are critical and say, yeah, you're too much of the world, Mark. You're too much a normal person. And I say, well, that's not, frankly, my fault. I know God called me to be a priest, but I won't alter as a person.
Cardiff is a multi-faith prison and Mark has been chaplain here for over 9 years.
Anybody who comes into prison for the first time, they're confronted by the smells and the sounds. The sounds of people shouting on echoey landings, the sounds of doors clanking and banging, and the smell that only 750 men could actually make together. You either then realise very quickly, this is a place for you, this is a place for you to minister, or I think you should close the door and never go near it. I always felt when I was called to be a priest that I was called to work with those that are marginalised. And in Britain today, you can get no more marginalised than those ostracised, thrown outside than prisoners. Are you coming to chapel on Sunday?
No one's come and asked me.
But you were on the rule, see, so it was difficult to say.
And I've been taken off for about 2-3 weeks now.
All right.
I went to Bible class.
Yes. So you're happy to come up on Sunday? Many men have many different coping mechanisms, and sadly, many in society will mask their real needs by one form or other of chemical addiction, be it alcohol, be it drugs. When they come to a prison environment and they are taken away from those masking agencies, then they start to confront reality. And spirituality is one of the ways of confronting reality. There is a fundamental difference between organised religion and spirituality. And it is for us in the chaplaincy to come alongside people and say, I believe this has answered some of my needs in life, this has enabled me to go forward. It may be it's for you. As part of our normal duties, we often get individual pastoral requests, and in the case I'm doing now, we've got a prisoner whose grandmother-in-law has died. So obviously, because it's not a close relationship, he won't be allowed out to the funeral or anything like that. So what we often do is take them over to the chapel and have a little bit of silence, allow them to say a few prayers, and check that they're feeling okay. Now in life, there's always the certainty of death, and sometimes death's horrible, as this one no doubt was. But what we can do is pray. Is pray that Joan is at rest now and at peace, and all that's gone by, and she's in a place where she won't be hurt anymore, and there'll be no harm anymore. And the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, be with you now, and stay with you always. Amen.
And we'll be back to meet Chaplain Mark again later. Now, you think you've seen the bad side. Well, behind these doors here is really not very nice at all. It's the prison within the prison. And Mark here is going to escort me into the segregation unit.
Okay.
And off we go. Thank you. Hi there. Now, Mark, I'm going to let you lock up because obviously
Certainly.
we can't show any keys or locks now. Wow, this is a very strange feeling in here. Oh, look, we've got it here perfectly explained. The segregation unit the purpose of the segregation unit at HMP Cardiff is to manage difficult prisoners by assisting them to identify and address their offending and antisocial behaviour. Now, Mark, come over here. You're at full capacity at the moment, aren't you? Now, say over there, cell 27. What's the guy in there for?
Prison is down. He's in here because he's broken the prison rules, basically.
Broken the prison rules. Yes. But in the next cell 28, very different reason that he's in here.
Prison is down here because, for his own protection, due to the nature of his offences.
And are you allowed to say what his offence is?
Of a sexual nature.
Sex offender. Okay, so he's down here for you, basically, to look after him?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Now, somebody comes down those stairs, they're kicking off, violent, you guys having a difficult time with them. What do you do? Where do you take them?
If they're under restraint and we deem that they are too violent to actually to stay on their own, we will locate them in here in the special accommodation or the box.
Or the box. Now, just have a look at that, guys. Not a nice place to be. So they come in here, as you say, they're kicking off, you've restrained them.
Yes.
What happens with them next?
We give them a chance to actually to try and stay on their own here. If they are too violent, we will locate them ourselves.
Okay.
Using correct CNR
Now,
techniques.
sometimes they are naked, but this is nothing to do with humiliating them or anything like that, is it? Right. It's actually for your safety and theirs. They
would only have their clothes taken off them if we believe that they're concealing on their person weapons that could harm themselves or to the members of staff.
And then once they've calmed down, you would move them to one of the other cells, is that right?
As soon as we can.
Okay, now, you think this place is bad. We've got something a lot worse to show you. You okay? So, just down here. Now, what's this place called down here?
This is the Dirty Protest Cell.
Dirty Protest Cell. Now, is this used often, or is it quite a... Actually, Mark, let's just get round there and let Grant get in. Go on. There we go. Is this used often, this cell?
It's not used often. It's on occasions, and they are quite rare occasions, actually. So.
Right, now, dirty protest. Tell me the worst case you've ever been through here at this prison.
Right, well, as you can see, the cell is quite different to a normal cell. That is only because of the reason that if somebody's protesting on a dirty protest...
That means they're using their excrement,
They're using their faeces, their urine, and any other bodily fluid that they may have, really.
Now, you had a guy here once who was here for 3 months,
That's correct, yes, we did.
And what was it like in here?
Horrendous, to be perfectly honest.
Everywhere
covered all the walls with excrement. It was all on the floor. The urine was on the floor, in the basins, and it was quite horrendous.
And you actually had a really bad experience coming in here, didn't you?
Yes, before we had the door fitted here, we had to come in and serve him the food, and I came in the one day and the smell was so strong that I was actually physically sick through the mask I was wearing. So.
You poor guys. Right, well, exactly. Talk about this door, because this door is very important for you, the officers, because it saves you from coming into this horrendous situation. What's going on with it?
Rather than having to open the door and serve the meal through there, this is a special door, special observation. There is special seals to stop the smell and the fluids coming through. This is used to actually feed and to actually serve the meal. Now, do you want to show the operator?
Yeah, show me.
Okay. The food there.
Wow.
The flap is opened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the food just goes in there.
The food is inserted in there. Place the food in there. We then close it back up. It's only a one-way mechanism. Then it's up there, and then the prisoner can actually access the food through that side.
A very sensible precaution, and quite extraordinary that somebody could eat when they've done that to their cell. Listen, Mark,
unbelievable.
Thank you ever so much for showing us down here. Thank you very much, and we'll see you later.
Thank you very much.
Now, later, Nick will be meeting a prisoner who knows firsthand exactly what it's like to be locked up in a segregation unit, and I'll be finding out what happens if things get really out of hand.
Later, behind bars, the only way that Paula can keep in touch with her son every day is by letter. Why? Because she thought it was okay to drink and drive.
I should be there for him, and I'm not, you know, and that upsets me really, really a lot, you know, and I just wish to God that I'd never done it.
Up in Stafford Women's Semi-Open Prison, Rachel hasn't seen her children since she used to take them shoplifting to pay for her heroin habit. Now she's hoping for a chance to see them again.
Today is the most nerve-wracking day of Rachel's entire prison sentence. In a few hours, she'll find out if she'll get permission to spend a day out of the prison with her 2 daughters. She hasn't seen them in the whole 15 months she's been inside.
I've not had visits with them because, I don't want them coming to see me in a prison.
So getting out on special day release is Rachel's only chance to see her girls. But that's far from certain. A heroin addict for 15 years, Rachel admits she won't win any awards for World's Greatest Mum.
I'd wake up of a morning and I'd be withdrawing. I'd be feeling ill, so I'd do anything, literally anything, to get my money so I could go and buy my heroin so it'd make me feel, as we say now, feel normal. It was a case of taking my daughter out shoplifting so I could get the money to get my heroin. What life? I disgust myself. But I can't dwell on that guilt. I'll always carry it with me, but it's moving on now, you know. It's moving on and putting all that behind us.
With the help of the prison's rehab scheme, Rachel feels she's finally conquered her drug habit. She says she's now ready to see her family.
I'm 35 next week, and, I can't go on like this anymore. I've had enough now.
Right, Rachel, welcome to your case conference. You know everybody around the table.
Rachel won't be allowed out unless she can graduate from the prison's drug rehab classes, and she's about to get their written verdict.
Rachel's changes in attitudes have changed whilst on the TC. And this time she's doing this for herself and feels that this is where the difference is. She's now much more aware of the risks and after effects of taking drugs.
Of course, I'm doing it for my mum and for my children, you know, and for my family. But I can't do it for them if I don't do it for me first, you know, and that is what I've realised in the past. I've always done it, you know, for other people. And this time, you know, I've done it for me first.
Yeah. We'll book a date for your graduation.
Yay!
And I'd like to thank you for all the input that you've put onto the unit as well.
It's a good report, but it doesn't guarantee she'll be able to see her girls. Only the prison authorities can take that decision, and Rachel's becoming more anxious by the moment.
I'm emotional, stressed out, you know, but I feel confident that I will, you know, because I've worked hard to try and, you know, get to where I am now, which hopefully will achieve in me getting these visits with my children.
Later, we'll find out whether the governor will give permission for Rachel to leave the prison to see her daughter. Nick.
Ashley, you've been down in the segregation unit, haven't you?
Yeah.
And so, how did you find it when you were down
there? I didn't find it too bad. It was just, well, it was easy. It's just the same as being on the wing, really, I find it.
But don't you lose stuff when you go down? You don't have the telly and you don't have...
Yeah, you just lose the TV and less phone calls, but that's it.
And so what do you gain, do you think, by being in the seg wing?
You don't gain anything. You just get time to spend on your own and just think about what you've done. And
is that a good thing?
Yeah.
You've been down to the seg wing several times, haven't you? What was the last time for?
Obstructing an officer.
In what way?
By putting a card in my cell door.
Putting a card in the cell door?
Yeah.
So the lock wouldn't work?
Yeah.
Did you know that you were likely to get nicked for that?
I knew I'd get nicked, but I didn't think I'd get punished that badly.
Why did you do it?
It was a prank.
A prank?
Yeah.
But it's not the only time you've been down there, is it?
No.
So what are the other times you've been down there for?
For positive drug tests.
Right. And I don't suppose you're going to tell me how you got hold of drugs whilst you're in the prison? No. So what are you saying that then seg wing it can be seen as a positive thing, as opposed to a punishment?
It depends how people find jail. It depends how people find it on the wing as well. Because some people don't like being in double cells, and when you're down there, you're just on your own, got time to think as well.
Actually, I might go outside and chat later. I'm going to go outside actually and speak to Dave again, because this is interesting. We're saying that seg wing is a terrible place, it's in punishment, it's all the rest of it. And Ashley there's telling me that it's something he prefers to be there because he's on his own.
Well, what you find, some of the prisoners are looking for a bit of peace and quiet now and again. And as I spoke to you earlier, they manipulate the system sometimes to get the means to their own end. And done the segregation, you get the peace and quiet, you get the cell to yourself, but you don't get the luxuries of the cells up on the wings. You don't get the televisions, you don't get the association.
But they will play the system if they fancy a bit of peace and quiet?
Some prisoners, but only the minority.
And do they lose any benefits by doing that, if they start playing you around like that?
Yeah, if they go to the segregation unit, they have less money to spend in the prison shop, they don't earn any money, and they get less weekly spends.
All right, just a quick one. You said earlier 50 pence a week for television. The average money is about what, £2.50 a week?
£2.50 for a prisoner who doesn't work, and anything up to about £20 after that.
All right, smashing. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Nadia.
Thanks, Nick. I tell you, being down here in the segregation unit, the quietness is eerie. I can't imagine anyone would want to come down here at all. Now, if you're behind bars, getting a letter from your loved one is a lifeline, but it's also a security risk.
This is what I got from yesterday. It says, "Dear Mum, hope you're okay. I miss you so much. I wish you was still here, and so does everybody else."
It's been hard labour for Paula. Away from her family, she spends her days emptying the prison bins, but it's given her a chance to think about her drink driving.
Disgusted, really. It's a terrible thing to do, you know. Apart from, you know, killing myself, I could have killed someone else. And then my son as well, you know, he's suffering. he's my only child, and like, you know, for his mum to be in prison, you know, it's terrible for him. Like, you know, I should be there for him, and I'm not, you know, and that upsets me really, really a lot, you know, and I just wish to God that I'd never done it.
The only way Paula gets through being away from her 14-year-old son is by reading and rereading the regular letters he sends her.
There's them, and we've still got some more. There, look. I go right the way through my letters all the time, and I'm always looking at the cards, always, like, you know. It does make you sad at times. This one's for my son. Mum, I've really missed you. I can't wait to see you on Tuesday, and I'll get you a nice cup of coffee when I see you. Ha! I love you, Mum, and miss you. Love her. So it's quite choking, actually. Oh, I get upset. Yeah, I do. I get upset quite a lot, actually. That's the worst thing, the missing people, more so than the actual prison itself, you know. But that's the way it is. I deserve to be here, so.
What we're checking for now is to make sure the drugs haven't been hidden inside the envelope.
None of the prisoners can get their mail till the afternoon because it all has to be rigorously checked before it can be given out.
One occasion we found some hidden under a stamp. It was a Christmas stamp as well, so it was quite a large stamp and it covered the drugs, but because we felt it, we found it, and we sent it straight down to security. Sometimes it is very difficult to see. There have been times where I've had to completely dismantle a card because I can't see underneath. So sometimes prisoners do get dismantled cards. My colleagues do the same as well. So if we can't see underneath, we have to. No, there's nothing there. I can see underneath that.
After the post is sorted, the prisoners can check if they've received anything. With no email or mobile phone use, it really is the highlight of the day.
I really look forward to it. When it's like got a tick by my name, I'm like, yes, I got mail, and that's what like cheers me up. Nope, got no post today. When I haven't got no mail, I feel a bit like down, you know, because especially if I'm expecting one and it don't turn up. So yeah, it does cheer me up when I have got one.
Now, with something like 750 prisoners here and 185 officers, if something really kicked off, who do you think they would go to first? This guy here or this guy? Well, surprisingly, the first person that you would call is this guy here, Andy Phillips, otherwise known as Oscar 1.
That's right.
So, Andy, first of all, what does Oscar 1 mean?
Oscar 1 is the orderly officer. Generally, this is the highest uniform rank on duty in the jail. And then, obviously, you've got the duty governor.
Now, most people just then would have thought that we would say first, this guy in all his kit, if something goes off. But that's not how you approach trouble here initially, is it? What do you do?
Well, obviously, the biggest thing we try to do is talk to people, talk people down, and de-escalate any situation.
Can you think of a particular situation where you've had to do that?
Yeah, I mean, we had a situation in Seawing the other day where we had a prisoner who was climbed up on the landing railings and wouldn't come down. So, I mean, the first thing we tried to do then is talk him down, which we did. It took about 20 minutes.
Now, if that doesn't work and you can't talk him into doing what you need him to do, what then happens?
Well, obviously, the officers then would, if it was necessary, restrain that prisoner and remove him from that area.
Okay.
Because of the disruption they're causing, obviously.
Okay, now we're going to go over to Martin here. Can you explain a bit about restraining? Now, you can't tell us exactly what you do, of course, because that's a secret.
Yeah.
But what mindset do you want to get them into, basically?
Control and restraint is basically the control of refractory prisoners and the use of force, basically, on prisoners.
Now, you can get them into positions, can't you, that basically, if they do as they're told, it won't hurt, but if they don't, it'll hurt a lot. Is that right?
Generally, yeah, control and restraint is based upon pain compliance, and once you've got pain compliance, there is no need then to carry on with the control in locks of a prisoner.
Okay. Now, when do you get this kit out?
This kit would be used for a planned intervention when all the conflict resolution techniques have failed and negotiations have failed. Oscar 1 would ask a supervising officer.
That's Andy here.
That's
Oscar
Andy
1,
there,
yeah.
to put together a 3-officer team with a shield, all wearing personal protective equipment, the same as this officer's wearing here.
So just quickly go through for me what he's actually wearing here.
Yeah, generally from head to toe, he's wearing a helmet with a plastic visor on.
What kind of things have you had to have that have come flying at you that's protected you from Andy?
Well,
Can you think of anything?
Yeah, in my previous establishment, before we had integral sanitation, I unlocked one prisoner one morning, and during those days they used to have a bucket in the cell overnight.
Oh no!
And
so you wanted that. Now, what else? What about this here?
Right, this is a stab trauma vest.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So that any trauma, stab, sometimes prisoners.
Can I have a knock?
Yeah, can.
Oh, yeah.
Prisoners are armed, and they do arm themselves with all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
And this is to protect the torso area.
And the same here on the
Yeah,
hands.
same leather gloves on the inside. They can be slash-proof. They got pads on the fingers and the knuckles, but you also need a little bit of flexibility in the fingers to control the prisoner. Going up the forearm, there's a forearm elbow guard, which protects the forearm because that's an open area. On the leg,
anything down the lower half to protect you?
The lower leg, there's a knee pad and a shin guard to protect that area there, which is obviously open and vulnerable. It's got steel toe cap boots on to protect his toes as well.
Okay. Well, listen, guys, thank you very much, and hopefully you won't have to get that kid out too often. Thanks very much. Nick, over to you. You wouldn't mess with him, would you?
Extraordinary. It's like watching RoboCop, isn't it? OK, moving along. There are more than 80 convicted killers in this prison, but the ones that worry the chaplain the most are the ones who are trying to kill themselves.
The hardest part of the job of a prison chaplain is to remain optimistic. The forces at loose in a prison can be very destructive. Morning.
Morning, Mark.
Come in last night. Brings you back, buddy.
Yeah.
Can I switch the telly off?
Oh, don't turn the telly off, man.
You're not going to be able to hear me, are you?
Go on and turn it off.
You know the score. The usual thing. We just want to check that, first of all, you're not going to top yourself or do anything silly.
No.
No?
No.
Feeling okay at the moment?
Just missing the family and kids.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. You've never done self-harm, though, have you?
No.
No. I'll tick the boxes on a form, you know, the usual bits and pieces. But I didn't think you had, so you're not going to do anything, dull, you?
No.
6 weeks. Bit of a rest. So how's your missus? That was a fairly typical standard reception interview. Often we know the people pretty well, so we can. It's like seeing old friends almost and picking up on what's been going on.
Mark's duties as chaplain include visiting the medical wing, where prisoners are kept on suicide watch.
The cells that we have here as we come by, they're quite interesting because we deal with on here a lot of the prisoners who may be very actively suicidal. So the normal cell door which you see around, which is a physical barrier, it's very hard to see what's going on and what somebody may be up to. On these particular cells, they've got a different sort of locking system, but also they're actually perspex doors so that it's very clear to staff what's going on inside the cell. So there are no taps, again, no ligature points, it's all a moulded unit. Likewise, the toilet behind there is moulded. The bed, again, a solid moulded unit, and even the place where someone could eat. And as in many of these cells, in the top corner, there's closed-circuit television. As you can see, many prisoners dislike the fact that they're on CCTV, so they get toilet paper or whatever and throw it up there to try and actually obscure the view. I think one of the most hardest parts of the role as a chaplain is your involvement in suicides. During my time at Cardiff Prison, I'm well into double figures of the number of men that have committed suicide. My role as a chaplain often is to be at the point where the person is discovered, to try and give some sort of support to the staff who may be trying to resuscitate the person, If the person subsequently is seen to be dead, to administer the last rites. And then to go with other members of staff and probably the governor to inform the family directly that their loved one has died. So in all the work that we do as chaplains, we really stress that we want to reduce that possibility. I hate the idea of prison, but I accept the reality of prison. Yes, they've done very evil, very wrong, very sinful things, but the person themselves, they have a potential, and I accept that I can have a role in setting people free from the prison that is their own heart.
Extraordinary. One of the things I've just found up here, this is a complaints box. Each of the wings has a complaints box where the prisoners can make complaints. And also, I just found it's all self-sufficient, all painted. I was thinking the paint is actually in good order. That's because they actually have a wing painter. One of the prisoners is identified as the wing painter. Interesting stuff. OK, moving along. Up in Stafford semi-open prison, inmate Rachel hasn't seen her children for 15 months. She's applied for a ROTL, a release from Stafford prison on a temporary licence. Now she's waiting for the governor's decision.
Sitting the board today for my ROTLs, innit, and child visits, and to go out and visit the rehab as well. It's nearly time. Oh, man.
As Rachel waits to go to hear if the governor has granted her application, she's given support by other prisoners who've been through the drug rehab scheme.
I couldn't sleep last night.
I bet you couldn't. I wanted them as well. Do you feel confident that you'll get it?
Yeah, I do. Because I know, what I've put into it and how I've worked.
But the meeting to decide if Rachel's ready to go out for the day with her 2 daughters isn't guaranteed to go her way.
Rachel is a name that I do know, which is not always a positive thing, as I am the security governor. However, on the board, I not only need to look at that aspect, but I also need to look at how she's behaved in custody, what she's done in her offending behaviour, and whether the risk posed to the public has been reduced. So we'll have to see how it goes.
I bet your girls are looking forward to it, aren't they, Rach?
Yeah. It's been 15 months since I've seen them, so,
They'll be proud of you.
Yeah. I'm just so glad that you lot are all here for me as well.
Yeah, well, that's what it's about.
We're all here for each other.
You give us support and we give it you.
Yeah.
Is she MAPA, prolific offender? Has she got any safeguarding children issues, or is she on the sex offender list?
Not MAPA, no, so no to all of those other things as well.
Now the report's going to be positive.
We do consider her ready to go out on licence. There is concern that she may still be vulnerable.
Right, OK.
The only risk that I could have had for getting knocked back is associating. It's guilty by association now, isn't it?
Getting mixed up with the wrong crowd again could be a real problem for Rachel, so probation is called in to give a briefing.
And the probation report doesn't cover the issue of the children?
They are actually doing a full investigation. They'll complete their inquiries as soon as they can, send back a completed form, and so that we will have a full risk assessment, not just for this application, but for subsequent applications.
OK, super. Thanks very much.
If I don't get to see them, I will be very upset if I don't, pass the board and get my CVs to see my children. But the way, I look at it is, this is another hurdle for me. I can't let myself get too low down about it.
Can Rachel report to POC in the resettlement unit?
I'm just about to go in to get my answer, and my stomach's churning. I'm nervous, but see how it goes.
Yeah, come in. Sit down, Nigel. Sit down. Right, they've done the board for your ROTL applications that you put in. Now, at this moment in time, your application for a 7-day release is currently on hold, pending receipt of information from outside probation.
Right.
Still waiting for a bit of information from it. Now,
Okay.
it's to do with, I think, in essence, with the person you put down to come and pick you up.
Right.
I think there's a couple of concerns there. What we will do, anybody you put down, we may do a police check,
Yeah, that's
obviously
not
to
a
check
problem.
those people. And we
Yeah.
would prefer it to be someone in your family,
Yeah.
but we will accept a
Yeah.
responsible adult.
Yeah.
So if you can think of somebody else, that'll be fine. Okay, Rachel.
Yeah, all right then, thanks very
Yeah,
much.
no problem at all. Whereabouts do you work?
I'm on guard.
If you go back to work now then, please.
All right then, thanks
Okay.
for it, Mr. Stephen. Bye.
See you later, bye.
Having her application refused this time around is tough for Rachel, but she's determined not to let the disappointment ruin all that she's achieved in her 15 months in prison.
This is a little obstacle that's, you know, come in the way, but I'll get over it, keep plodding on. But, you know, it's not setting me back. I'm still, you know, a bit gutted, but I'm fine.
And we understand that Rachel's still waiting for approval. Well, that's almost it for today, but tomorrow behind bars we'll be finding out how this toothbrush can be used as a deadly weapon, and we're given a look inside Cardiff Prison's very own House of Horrors. We'll also be discovering why many murderers miss the person they've murdered, so much so that they're being offered bereavement counselling. Extraordinary. Looking forward to finding out how that works tomorrow, I have to say. OK, still got Paul and Justin here, who we were talking to earlier. And I wanted to have another word with you because I'm trying to get my head around a few things. Is there bullying in prison? That's what I would expect to have when you come in here.
Yeah. There is some, but there's not a massive amount of it. Well, I haven't really experienced much of it, and you don't see an awful lot of it.
Is there a pecking order? Like there is in like a school playground? Any place you get lots of blokes together, there's a...
Not anything like I expected. There's no daddies or anything like that on the wings, or, you know, people running the wing. So they seem to have eradicated all that nowadays.
And the other bit I can't get my head around is with you, Justin, why you keep coming back. Because you've got a job when you're out.
Yeah, I'm self-employed on the out.
You've got a kid.
Yeah, I've got a long-term partner and a 5-year-old daughter.
You don't like being in it?
No.
Why do you keep coming back? I don't get it.
I think it's mainly it's mixing with the wrong sort of people and getting into the wrong sort of crime.
Do you think you'll be able to break the cycle of going out, coming back in, going out, coming back in?
I say that every year, but hopefully this time my partner's told me it's either me or the prison.
So you're going to stick? All right, OK. Dave, try and help me out here because I seriously can't understand this. I mean, I know that there are drug-related crimes and a lot of drug-related crimes that make people keep coming back in, but this isn't a drug-related crime. Yours isn't a drug thing, is it? No, it's not.
I think the prisoner has to be ready to give up crime, and the amount of prisoners that let us know every day, oh, I won't be back, boss, I won't be back, and we see them time and time again. But eventually, I think they grow out the crime and realise there's more to life than coming to jail.
But I'm worried because the person we spoke to earlier said, oh, segregation unit's not so bad, and actually, if you want a bit of peace and quiet, it's quite good to go down there. You've got televisions, you know, is it tough enough?
It depends which way you look at it. I mean, do you want the prisons to be rioting like they have several years ago, or do you want the peace and quiet and try and rehabilitate them, which the prison service has invested a lot of money into trying to do?
Is it working? Is it rehabilitated? Because you keep seeing the same faces.
To a certain extent, yeah, but like I said, the prisoner has to be ready to rehabilitate himself to a certain extent. We can't do everything for them. It has to be a 50-50 mix.
OK. All right, well, interesting, fascinating stuff today. That is about it for today. Join us tomorrow for another exclusive and fascinating look at life on the inside. And I'm still not sure I've got my head around why this keeps happening. Maybe we'll find out by the end of the week and I can ask the Governor. Interesting. Do join us tomorrow.